Hello and welcome to my review of the Daemons of Nurgle Sloppity Bilepiper. This model will cost you £15 and you can use it in your games of Warhammer Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40K. I really like the name, Sloppity Bilepiper. Rings true with me in the sense of he's not really doing a good job and it's all sort of, you know, not the best musical rendition or something like that. But this model is absolutely great. There's so much detail going on. You've got everything from this demon face in this kind of jester master of ceremonies kind of rod with some bells on and some kind of incense bells. If you paint them bronze with the Nylock oxide, it's going to match in with like your Death Guard army. You've got this big bagpipes which, you know, don't have a nice fancy sort of tartan cover over or anything like that. They are just the kind of stomach that he's blowing into with these bone pipes. He's got this really long tongue, such a long tongue, with a couple of bells off of his cap. Kind of reminds me of like a nightcap having bells on it, because it's even got a bell on the tip, on the end there. You get this excellent Nurgling with him, just in sort of manic joy. I'll see if I can kind of zoom in for you. Yeah, so he's really happy with whatever the tune this good old Sloppity is pumping out. He doesn't mind. He's got all of his intestines just hanging out. He's free, you know. He's got this horn as well on the side, just in case he gets tired of blowing into those kind of bile pipes. And then he's got a little Cyclops kind of skull, or actually like a plague bearer skull really, just tied to him. Lots of detail on the back. You know, you can see his spine and lots of kind of pitted skin and rotted away. And then if that's not enough, he's even got like a little, they must be bells, you know, like Morris dancers. I live in Norfolk, so we see him now and again, but you know, so he's got little bells on his ankles as well. So you know, when he's skipping around and things, he can still be quite melodic. Also sort of reminds me a little bit of Mary Poppins as well, you know. Anyway, so that's him, all this detail. He was a joy to put together, not very difficult at all. You know, the little Nurgling, it's great that it's separate, because then you don't have to put him on there. You can take him off, you can put a different Nurgling on, maybe one of the ones from the Great Unclean One set, but it's completely up to you. But this Nurgling definitely fits the whole sort of look of this Bilepiper. Anyway, that's enough about the model. What I'll do is I'll just show you some size comparisons. So here we have a plague bearer, sort of work in progress, and he does tower above a normal plague bearer, which is great. Still on the same base, but his sort of master of ceremonies or whatever is just adds to that height. Really quite a high model, and definitely will stand out in amongst some plague bearers. Next to Scrivener, Spoilpox, actually taller than Scrivener as well. You know, Scrivener has it's bigger model, bigger base and things, but the way he's sort of leaping up, his head is slightly taller than Scrivener, and his ceremony kind of rod is adds to the overall height as well. It's just Scrivener has a bit more bulk, and that's sort of like the triangle there, the trifecta. Basically, you know, if these plague bearers step out of line or too jovial or whatever, this Scrivener has the powers to turn them into a jester kind of musical plague bearer, otherwise known as a Bilepiper. So there you go. That's sort of the way it sort of works. I'll do some size comparisons with the other models that they released. So the Horticulus, yeah, it's sort of, you know, quite high, quite tall compared to the snail, you know, Maltzy, but that's that. And then recently put together Beast of Nurgle. He is just a little bit shorter than a Beast of Nurgle, but the Beast of Nurgle is definitely more thickness there. And then next to the tree, it's going to work quite well skipping about the tree, you know, probably knocking one of those bells with his rod there. And then finally, last but not least, I'll bring in the old Great Unclean one here. Yeah, Great Unclean one. Barely fits in the picture, it's so thick. I need to put this on widescreen mode on the camera. But yeah, as you can see, again, that would look great near him with the little Nurglings sort of complementing each other. Now, I'll just show you next to some Imperial models, specifically a couple of Space Marines. You've got your standard Space Marine and then your Primaris. Primaris size, he is just a little bit taller. I mean, the Plague Bearers normally are quite sort of lanky, I want to say. I mean, you compare, yeah, they're not typically a bit taller than Space Marines, you know, which is great for sort of custodies. If you read any books and things, they slaughter a load of Plague Bearers and things. Anyway, but yeah, that's the Primaris next to him. He is taller than a Primaris, same base and everything too. So there you go, hope those size comparisons help. Now this is my part of the review where I'll talk to you about all of the rules. Unfortunately you don't get the rules in with the model, bit of a shame. Some of the £15 to £20 clamshell packs do have rules in, but this one doesn't. Instead, you're going to have to look into your brand new Codex Chaos Demons book, where he counts as an HQ choice. He is a power points cost of a 3, and as such, because his rules don't come in the clamshell pack, I won't be able to touch on the Age of Sigmar rules. He does count as an HQ choice, and he's a power points cost of a 3, so very, very cheap. Match play points, he's going to cost you 60, so that's not too bad. His stat line is movement 5 inches, like a lot of the kind of Nurgle Death Guard. Weapon skill 2+, ballistic skill 2+, strength 5, toughness 5, 4 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 8, and a save of 6+. Obviously he's got demonic, so he gets his 5+ invulnerable. So that's quite a decent stat line actually, you know, 4 wounds, strength, toughness 5, and weapon skill, ballistic skill 2+. The only thing he's armed with is a Marotta. It's a range, it's just a melee weapon. His strength is used, so that'll be 5. AP is nothing though, and damage is only 1. And you can re-roll wound rolls made of a 1 made for this weapon. So I've touched on the fact that he's got demonic, so 5+ invulnerable save. He's got disgustingly resilient, so he's ignoring those wounds on a 5+. And then he's also got demonic ritual. The other 2 abilities that he's got specific to him are Disease of Mirth. Whenever a Nurgle demon unit takes a morale test within 6 inches of any friendly Sloppity Bilepiper, or Bilepipers, sorry, roll 2 dice instead of 1 and discard the highest result. In addition, each time a unit fails a morale test within 6 inches of any enemy Sloppity Bilepipers, 1 additional model is removed from that unit. So that's pretty decent. So morale tests, you roll in 2 dice and you discard the highest. That's pretty decent. And also, when your unit fails the morale test, 1 additional model is removed from the unit. So that's pretty good too. Jolly Gut Pipes. Add 1 to the attacks characteristics of Nurglings and Great Unclean One units that are within 6 inches of any friendly Sloppity Bilepipers. In addition, Nurglings and Great Unclean One units can declare a charge even if they advance in their movement phase and if they are within 6 inches of any friendly Sloppity Bilepipers. So again, this goes to what I was saying about having them near Great Unclean Ones and Nurglings actually. You know, within 6 inches, you're going to get an extra attack, and they can charge even if they advance. So a nice little buff there, a cheap way of buffing those units, you know, power 3 and your 60 points for match play. Obviously he's fairly survivable. Yes, he's only got that 5+ invulnerable, but he does have 4 wounds and he does have toughness 5. He's not going to be very good in close combat at all. He hasn't got a power weapon or a high strength weapon or anything like that. He doesn't have many attacks. He's really just for buffing that attack characteristics for the Nurglings and the Great Unclean Ones, and helping with morale. Which you would expect for, you know, something with like a musical instrument or whatever in this kind of tabletop board game. His faction keywords are Chaos, Nurgle and Demon, and his keywords are Character, Infantry, Plague Bearer, Herald of Nurgle and Sloppity Bilepiper. So there you go, that is the end of my review of the Sloppity Bilepiper. I think he's a fantastic looking model, lots of character, lovely Nurgling that Games Workshop have produced for the model too. Definitely will fit in with your whole army, especially if you've got a load of Plague Bearers. I'm actually thinking about boosting up the number of Plague Bearers I have in my army, and Rot Flies and things like that. And just for savings of cost and things, I probably will pick up another start collecting set at some point, just to boost the numbers. But yeah, great that you can use them in 40k as well as Age of Sigmar. There's always been that blurred lines between Warhammer and Warhammer 40k in terms of chaos. They do exist in sort of both realms, but there are a few things that, you know, you can't bring across to your Warhammer 40,000 army. Even though you can bring in something like the Snail and the Great Unclean One and things like Epidemius, you know, you can't unfortunately bring in things like those Blight Lords, you know, on the mounts and things like that. It would have been great if you could, but I kind of understand that these are kind of demon looking kind of figures, even though this guy's got lopping shears and this guy's got like a quill. You know, maybe they didn't want to sort of blur the lines too much and have kind of swords and shields, I suppose, even though there are power swords and combat shields in the 41st millennium. But for whatever reason, there's still a little bit of a divide. Anyway, what do you guys think of this model? Have you built one? Have you painted it? And have you used it in battle yet? Was it a good investment? Were you able to hide it behind your Great Unclean One? I mean, you can pretty much almost hide your whole army behind one of those thick boys. Anyway, put it in the comments below. It'd be great to hear your thoughts. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. Papa bless.